All right, welcome everybody. This is a special Wednesday. We got Brian Wang from Next Big Future joining us as well. We co-stream on many channels. We've got Nick Gibbs, Investing Against the Grain, and of course, Brian White, Futuraza. I think I'm going to call you White, and I'm going to call him Wang because you're both Brian W's, and you both have future in your channel. So,
and if
Wang
you want
and
a
White,
white Wang, look this up.
Oh boy.
what we're talking about today is the Tesla bull thesis stronger now after what's happened in the last week? Many of you might say no fundamentals have changed. Can't really say that yet, but lots of things are being announced about robotaxi. But this big news came out this morning. Elon Musk announced today that XAI is going to be building a 500 megawatt data center with Saudi Arabia in partnership with Nvidia. This is the video, so let's listen to it.
Yeah, we're excited to announce that we're doing a 500 megawatt. I mean, yeah, 500. Sorry,
500 megawatt.
500 megawatt. Yeah.
We're doing 500 megawatts.
Sorry,
Not
there's.
quite, yeah.
Yeah. No, there's 500 gigawatt one. We'll have to wait. That'll be $8 bazillion trillion.
Stop that.
So yeah, we're doing a XAI and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia are doing
You mean 500 megawatts starting with 50?
Oh, so 500 megawatt. How big is that, Wang? How big of a deal is that?
That's about $25 billion, because the gigawatt would be what, 50 billion, including the chips and energy and all that kind of stuff.
And how much will go to Tesla?
Tesla would be actually unclear how much it would go to Tesla, because it would depend upon actual performance of things, of getting the actual application of the AI, because the chip part is 70% going to Nvidia, and then the energy part is all being built by Saudi. So the XAI is just how much can you actually do with it, trading side. So, in terms of just default, it's getting them access to a $20 billion data center. So it's like OpenAI having more leverage on a data center, and this, how much can I make of it now that I have partners that are paying for it? Someone's paying for it, someone giving them the chips, they have to put it in, all the generation on top is what they get the cut of.
Probably $1 billion worth of megapacks though, right?
Yeah. At least 1%, 2% of that is megapacks, right?
Okay, that's fantastic. What'd you guys do? How did you guys interpret this? Is that, I mean, he's just thinking so big, just massive. He's joking, saying the gigawatt will come later.
I don't know what to make of it. It is a little bit of compute, and for what? That's the answer is for everything, for absolutely anything. But what specifically? I don't know. I think this is exciting for XAI and for X. Maybe they'll figure out how to reduce the number of fake Elons I have following me every day.
Sure.
But I think that would require many terawatts.
So the other thing would be that it in terms of immediate benefit, once it gets built, they said they were going to service the region. So the Arabic side, so there's getting more of a regional market share or world market share, because you're serving the Middle East and closer to Europe and that kind of stuff. So it's a global expansion for sure. And if you believe in their training and inference side of things, having more availability to serve would mean that you'd get some level of extra customer stuff. And also they're a really great partner with super deep pockets to continue to do more deals. So that's also positive.
Brian, how does this compare to all the other announcements that other organizations have announced?
So OpenAI has $1.4 trillion worth of deal between now and the early 2030s. That's about 35 to 40 gigawatts. So this would be, about 1 to 2% of that. So just the scale of these things is just so huge that everything is just, another big deal. So it's another deal that they already have. It doesn't not more than their Colossus 2. Colossus 2 is bigger, going to 1 gigawatt early next year, and then likely will triple. There's room to triple that or more in terms of floor area and doubling that up. So that's the 5-6 gigawatts. But having another regional partner getting that expansion just shows that they're continuing to be on track. And for Nvidia, it's just another deal where they have even more, another 20 billion for them or something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But at least it shows that Elon and Jensen Huang, who's been, partnering with everybody, he'll shake anybody's hands. But it shows that they're actually still very much working together, and there's no, ill will or any kind of concern there. Yeah.
Right. And in terms of shaking their hands, I think Jensen doesn't get out of bed for $10 billion. So it's at least a big enough deal that he's there because he's doing so many, to your point.
Oh, good point. Nick, did you want to give an update on Nvidia? Because I know they had their earnings today as well.
I'll tell you a bigger update right now. This is just breaking, but the Fed minutes just got released, and apparently only several participants supported further cuts. Most participants are concerned cuts would add to risk of higher inflation.
Oh, no.
Many suggested appropriate to keep rates unchanged for the rest of the year, and the December rate cuts have now dropped to 35% from 50%.
Oh, my God.
So I think the market's been baked that in, though, to be honest. So just
really?
keep an eye. Yeah, I think the market's been baking that in. I still think they cut personally, but Nvidia. This whole bull cycle right now hinges on the State of the Union tonight from Jensen, at least for the rest of the year into probably the first quarter of next year. I would say is that to see if Jensen can quail the concerns that I believe are somewhat. If I'm speaking my own bias, but I think they're somewhat manufactured, self-imposed. It just reminds me of DeepSeek all over again, where everybody got up into a tizzy. At the end of the day, we all know this is real. We've heard the same fear, same concern. Where's ROI? Where's ROI? When's ROI going to show up? And these things take time. We still don't know. We don't know. The game hasn't even started, is the best way I would think about it. Like, we're just starting to understand what can happen. I mean, we went from the year of, chatbots that are actually work into the year of generative AI in general, where people are doing RAG type models or RAG type setups, not models. And then we've moved into now, then all of a sudden MCP servers came out, and that was a huge unlock. Right into now where agentic AI plus MCP server is like, so we're in this discovery phase where everything's happening. And I just find it really hard to believe that we have a big issue under ourselves when you have companies like Tesla who, they're investing heavily, but they have energy and autos to fund that. It's a profitable business that funds it. You have Meta that has Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp ads to fund that. You have Google that has everything to fund it. Microsoft, Amazon, same thing. Sure, OpenAI, that's a hot mess, I would say. $1 trillion to IPO. They don't have a lot of revenue. They're not profitable. They have to go to the debt markets or dilute their investors. Yeah, that's a concern. Anthropic, maybe somewhat the same way. But to say that we have a big AI bubble, I kind of call BS on this. And I think a lot of this is self-imposed. And I think people are missing the bigger picture, what's going to happen. And I think tonight, Jensen might set the course straight. So tonight is a very, very big night.
One of the things that Nick and I talked about a little bit last week, we had dinner. We got to meet for the first time in person. That was wonderful. He promised me a hug. He did not fail to deliver.
Okay, good.
And he's grown up so much that I'm pretty sure he's eating a cup of tea bags. I can't tell what that is, but one of the things we were talking about was the difference between this and the dotcom bubble. You can show the glass; it looks like tea bags, but in the dotcom bubble, a lot of the revenue we saw was not real revenue. It was a a triangle trade of people basically shuffling tokens around that happen to be called dollars. And when one of them failed and they said, well, we can't be spending that, $30 million on advertising. That wasn't a real 30 million because that advertising company was paying you 30 million for something that was also intangible. And the whole thing collapsed. What we're seeing here in parts of the AI market is revenue streams, whether it's Tesla with FSD that generates revenue, or a lot of people will pay for some premium features. A lot of people pay for premium grok. I don't pay for it directly, but I get it through paying indirectly for other things on X. And this is different. There is revenue here. There is clear value as opposed to, say, a dog walking multi-billion-dollar website. That never was going to work. Some of these will, but I value what Nick said in terms of OpenAI doesn't have the second revenue stream to sustain the first thing, to sustain the moonshot. And I don't know how you get around that, but I guess the answer is $1 trillion IPO.
Can I just add one something else like that was part of that conversation is just to juxtapose the two, like what Brian was just doing. The dot-com bust was also essentially popped through us going through a Fed rate hike. We are now in a easing cycle, right? That's meaningfully different. And also, Burry can say whatever he wants. Go to AWS, go to Azure, go to GCP, go try to get any GPUs on reservation. Go try. Let me know how that goes. Let me know how far out you have to go to reserve. And I would say like that should be kind of your real measuring stick.
Yeah.
So a point I would like to make to add on that is that when you do the deep dive of where's the revenue from, for the guys, the hyperscalers, the Metas, Amazon, Microsoft, et cetera, and Google, they have already indicated that the improvement to their business by replatforming is something that they're already seeing benefit from. That the advertising improving for Facebook, the productivities improving from using the products that Google and Microsoft have. So we don't get to see precisely into theirs, but they have the quarter reports which show that there's return there, and it's enough for them to raise their guidance. So they've done detailed analysis that shows that this is continuing to improve. For OpenAI and Anthropic, they're at $13 billion run rate for OpenAI, and they're projecting to get to $20 billion by the end of the year. And their track of that revenue growth, again, real dollars revenue growth, is aligned with the necessary implied revenue that they would need to justify that $1.5 trillion commitment for OpenAI. So that they're on track and okay with, if we keep growing like this, we will totally be able to meet and have the spend work out for them. So they have justified their numbers, and the rate at which it's happening does align with the growth they see in their actual revenues, which should then translate into earnings. Like there was Amazon's growth during the dot-com period where they were constantly losing money, but that if they chose to slow down their growth or other things, they could then turn profitable. So OpenAI is in the same situation where they're growing quickly. If there was some emergency thing, they could dial back plans, shift to a lower spend rate, and get towards non-bankruptcy track. Go ahead.
Okay. So the market obviously is very, very pins and needles, whether or not we are in an AI bubble. We're waiting for Nvidia. Jensen Huang to talk tonight. He's the one person who can actually set everybody straight. He actually had an interview this morning when he was in Saudi Arabia. He spent 3 minutes answering that question. Are we in an AI bubble? The answer is no, of course not. He said that AI is required for every company that has a database. It's required for any company that has a recommendation engine, which they all do. And just that alone justifies additional AI spend. Then he talks about agentic AI that's going to take over.
Can we linger on that? Sorry.
Yeah,
I
just
wanna-
a little bit quicker because I do want to get to Tesla, back to Tesla again. But obviously, this is very critical for Tesla because they are seen as they're not. I don't believe that Tesla is part of this AI bubble because they're a different kind of AI. Yeah.
But Tesla's the perfect example of this. Okay. Let me say what Jensen's saying in a different way that essentially also contradict or puts Michael Burry back on his heels, or at least it should. Michael Burry's not wrong.
I mean, the guy's out of business, dude. So
he's not out of business. He closed up shop. That doesn't mean he's out of business. Like, he's a smart guy. Let's not act like he's not a smart guy. Like, he's a doctor. He's made billions of dollars. Like, give respect, right? Like, let's stay humble, but let's also be, let's think this through. So he's not wrong that training compute, and really when we say that, we're talking about the GPUs, not even the servers themselves, are only really useful for say 2 to 3 years for the Mag 7, right? Because there's only so much supply that gets created, and that immediately goes to the Mag 7 companies. Everyone else eats the droppings of whatever is left over, right? So they get fed first. So that is true. But what he seems to either not understand, or he's got some damning evidence that's going to come out on the 25th, is that once they recycle that, or once they go ahead and they get new equipment to bring in, I don't know who's got the dentist in the background, but it's loud.
It's way.
Okay. But once that training compute essentially exceeds its life cycle for companies like the Mag 7, what happens is they get the new sets from Nvidia or whoever, right? We don't know what the future looks like. That compute doesn't just go useless. That drops down into a inference tier, and then it gets used for inference. And what you're starting to see happens after that inference tier, essentially, that life cycle also cascades down. That will cascade from training to inference to generalize compute. So what Jensen's saying is that all CPU workloads will eventually be dominated by GPU workloads. So imagine things that go from serial to parallel to three-dimensional as far as how they're used. And that's what's happening. Every CPU will get displaced by GPUs. And so this is what I think Burry and them don't understand is the longevity. And Tesla, let me tie it back. Tesla is a perfect example of this, where they're still using Dojo 1. They're still using the A100 chips they have. They still talk about all this compute they have online because they still have jobs for it to do in the background. It may not be training because that requires the latest, highest horsepower, but that doesn't mean that they can't continue to squeeze life out of those servers and those GPUs. Nice.
Thank you for explaining that. That's very important. Okay, so let's tie it back to Tesla because, this concern about is Tesla is the world in an AI bubble or not? But more and more, especially in the last 2 weeks, you've got analysts now recognizing that Tesla is a physical AI company and that they're recognizing that's different than the generative AI companies out there. And so the recent advancements by Tesla announcing that they're opening up, Arizona got approval for Department of Transportation to launch a Robo taxi service there. They've expanded. That looks like that they've added more cars in Austin and Bay Area. And it looks like that, he's even talking about unsupervised FSD coming a couple of weeks from now. These are talk, but more and more are people realizing there's a difference. Tesla is a physical AI company. And so do you think that has changed the bull thesis at all? There's more people realizing this bull thesis, or it's still very much, gradual, just a few people that are realizing this?
Another big thing that we found out yesterday or the day before, Joe Tegmeyer was able to confirm that the new build out in Texas at Giga Texas, not part of the main building, but in a different building, I think it's Cortex 2, I don't remember, is for Optimus training. Yeah. So that is another big feather in the it's fun. I saw this very silly chart the other day comparing all the different AI plays and how I don't remember who they concluded was the best positioned, but they didn't even put Tesla on the list. If they had, it would have checked all the boxes, maybe all but one of the boxes. So we can't include that. Don't include that. But they did include companies that have only one element of what they actually need to be successful. Are people recognizing this today? I'd say no. I would say they are not recognizing it. And it's, I don't know how you get around that.
I think there's a bit of recognition. You have some of the analysts increasing their targets and they're using the justification to be robotaxi. The release of the robotaxi app to the iOS, all Apple iPhones, and the increased scale of what's happening in Austin, I think that is something that is clearly showing that they are on track to the 1,000 plus cars in San Francisco, 500 plus cars in Austin. I think the fact that they went to 3 to 4 minute delays, waits for cars in Austin based on the service area, I think that meant they went from 50 cars to 200. Because they were having 10,
ask you. Yeah, you think 200?
I think they had 200 because they went that 10 20 minute wait, dropping it down to 3 to 4 minutes. I think that meant that they had to, in order to do that, get more cars into play. So if we're there on track with all those moves, that we hit the no safety monitor thing at 1,500, that would be very real for a significant number of investors to say, "Oh yeah, you guys are for real. Yes, you're the size of Waymo was a year ago or 6 months ago, and now you're half the size of a desperately expanding Waymo, and then you got the drive, then you remove the driver, then that's quite real." And then they have to then look at
Brian, yeah. So you're saying that at some point Tesla will have 1,500 robotaxis, 1,000 in California, 500 in Austin, but when they remove the safety monitor, it likely won't be all 1,500. It'll just be, a couple hundred maybe in Austin.
Right.
Before,
yeah, it would be over a couple of weeks or even a month that they would then totally remove them, or it can even be 2 months before total removal. But the fact that you get some removal would be a significant black or white thing for many people, because they're looking at, they say the monitor, I can hook my objections to the fact that the monitor's there. Once the monitor is gone, even if they're doing stuff in the back end, for them the perception is real things are happening. You become real robotaxi versus something that's not quite there. So their excuse goes away.
They're good at making new excuses, if nothing else. I would say that one of our viewers, the Tunnies, is in Austin. He tried to get a ride on the robotaxi last night. Service was simply unavailable. There weren't enough cars. That doesn't mean we haven't expanded the fleet. It means it's overstrained, whatever they're doing. I would be curious I'll later today go and look to see if I can find the account that identifies individual vehicles in the robotaxi fleet to see if it has expanded this week, because that would be a big indicator.
You had an initial question there, Herbert. And I forget what it was, but you worded it in a very nice way. Do you happen to remember what you said?
About the physical AI company? I don't.
No, gosh, I gave you a compliment and you dropped the ball. Well, you phrased it in a certain way, but let me back into it what it made me think of. Tesla's holding up actually pretty strong right now from a stock perspective. And I think that's because people are, and I say people, take that as a huge broad blanket, open up the aperture. That means Wall Street, hedge funds, et cetera, retail, everyone are taking into account that if we are in a AI bubble, and if Burry is right, and if everything, like we all are just, we can't see what he sees, or we can't see the inevitable in front of us, I think the market is essentially saying, we know where Tesla's going.
Yeah.
We know where Nvidia is going. And these are kind of the two bets that we can very clearly open up an Excel sheet and figure out where things are going, figure out what P&L looks like. You can't do that with anyone else, really. And so I think that is what's honestly supporting Tesla up so strong, right? I'm beyond shocked that we have not plummeted down to like $360, $350 a share. It's holding up really, I mean, let's see what happens in a couple hours, but it's holding up really strongly. But I think it's the conviction people have at the same time as Elon, and I don't even say Elon, but Tesla is rolling this out. I mean, Nevada, close enough, right? Nevada, Nvidia, Nevada. Right? They should have headquarters there. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Nevada launches Robotaxi for Tesla, or gets the approval. We see this expansion, or not even expansion. This what do you call this? This floodgates opening up that anyone, if you're in Austin, or if you're in San Fran, you can use this. Like, this is Signal Plus, where we see all these other before the end of the year. It is very clear that either things are going to continue to trickle the way they have been, and it's going to be a lot that happens, or there's going to be kind of a moment before the end of the year where it's like, hey, look at everything we just did. And I think the market is betting on AI is real, but who's going to recognize that? And I've had a pinned post on my X for a couple of years now, essentially saying LLMs are commodities. They will not be the profit generators. It'll be humanoids and autonomy. And I think the market is seeing this. And I think the market is saying the safe bet, if you still want to have a bet out there in AI, because who wants to take chips off the table when it comes to AI? It's going to be in Tesla. It's going to be in Nvidia. Maybe throwing a Palantir in there. But I say that because there is no competition to Palantir. You have Palantir, and then who? Like Tesla even has competition.
Yeah. Do you guys think that their money is flowing away from some of these investments in LLMs and into companies like Tesla?
I wouldn't say it that way. I would say money is being hoarded and sucked out of different. Look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin's under 88,000 or at 88,000, something like that, right? So money's definitely getting sucked out. I wouldn't say it's being reallocated just yet, but I would say it's getting sucked out less out of Tesla than everything else. I don't think we know where it's being allocated yet.
Another signal that physical AI and Tesla's version of stuff is being believed is the new Jeff Bezos company, Prometheus project, that is $6.2 billion working on physical AI. So he's someone else because... Wait,
it's not physical AI.
Well, it's...
Prometheus is AI specific. It's AI, but it's like XAI, but I understood it to be for manufacturing, like as if Tesla's not doing that, which is creating AI, not for LLMs, but for manufacturing, improving manufacturing processes. That's not physical AI, right? Or do you think it is?
I think he was talking about some stuff with robotics and engineering that sounded like it would be more physical, and then the engineering real world focus. So it's not total physical AI, but it's less a generalized thing, more towards the XAI, maybe not total copy, but like in that direction, directly towards physical and engineering and world AI. And then there's also the World Labs stuff from Fei Li, where she's working on world simulation models. So those are more bet in the direction of, in the area of what Elon's viewing how to apply AI and learn and grow it. So it's along the path. I do correct, not totally identical, but along the path.
I don't know. I just love it when Elon and Tesla says something like, "Oh, the future's no LiDAR and vision," and then everybody says no, and then it happens. The future is autonomous, not just EVs, and then it's starting to happen, and people are realizing it. And now they're talking about physical world AI is the future, not that's the bigger market. That's the bigger. People are they're slowly saying, "No, not yet. I'm still going to bet on these things." Now it's happening. Right? They have to prove it. And that's what my question was today. Is like, are you guys thinking that anything's really changed or nothing yet? A lot of people still stuck on remove the safety monitor. That's the real signal. All these other things, not real signals yet.
I think we'll know more by the end of next month. I'm just trying to get through Turkey Day unscathed.
In terms of the change in the bull thesis, I think the bull thesis needs to incorporate in the 2030 timeframe is where the space AI, which includes also the a lot of chips, a lot of the AI 8 or whatever chips, that is going to be if you're modeling out 10, 15 years, like a Stephen Mark Ryan or something like that, that you need to now have big line items related to space AI, that is potentially a huge market. And that's, I think, more validated that it's everyone agrees, that Google agrees, that Bezos agrees, that Elon agrees that this is what's going to happen. And if that is the case, the fact that you have the unique advantage of eventually working SpaceX Starship that's fully reusable, that is the key to unlocking that whole thing. And the keys will be handed to Tesla with their AI8 chips in high volume for that purpose. And that's the vision of that is actually, I think, bigger than the Mars application. That Mars will where it ends up, but in between is orbit and the moon getting to that path. So when Elon was talking about orders of magnitude, right? That going to when you asked him the question about how many miles to get to robotaxi, he said like not 1 billion, not 100 billion, but 10 billion kilometers. This kind of order of magnitude thing of like going from however many from cars to robotaxi, robotrucking to Tesla bot, that these things kind of are going up in orders of 10. Like robotaxi, like 10 times bigger than cars. Bots can be 10 times bigger than robotaxi, and then the AI data centers can be
10 times bigger than bots.
10 times bigger
Really?
than bots per decade,
No way.
kind of thing. Yeah, because it's if you can actually put up the 100 billion, or then he also talked about a terawatt. So his terafab was 1 million wafers per month, right? And that's 10 to 12 million wafers per year. Each wafer would have a yield of about 100 chips, right? So that means you have 1 billion chips. 1 billion chips, if you're at the per year, that's the Nvidia chip is 2 kilowatts per chip. The AI5 is at 250. If you kind of go in between, just for simple calculation, call it 1 kilowatt chips. That is your terawatt. So his billion chips per year is a terawatt per year. So his first goal is to get to 1/10 of that, of 100 gigawatts. So that's 100 million chips. And if you go to a terawatt per year at the sun synchronous always on location, that is twice the energy of the United States per year, right? So when you have that much power, that much chips, and you have some kind of instead of a per capita income thing, a per chip income thing, then it's a crazy amount of money. And the thing is, no other method can get to those levels of power in the 2030 timeframe than that method, because everything on Earth, nuclear, hydro, natural gas, you cap out. It's really hard to get past 50 gigawatts for that purpose. To align to it. I can run some numbers, again, order of magnitude kind of thing. But then if I'm saying I want to go to terawatt, 101 gigawatts up to 1,000 or however high you go, nothing else can fill that gap.
Wow.
Right. So then it's the factor of no choice. It's just like on the All In podcast, Jamal was talking about the reason that Palantir is so much more valuable than the other companies is because you have no other choice. So simply
no competitors.
No competitor. So you have no other choice than to go to this approach, and you cannot do it at scale. So then everyone else, after they start doing it, and they're already talking about doing it, that Google in their 19-page report says, and then we're going to buy SpaceX Starship rides in 2035. They're saying they know we're going to go to them. We're going to buy those rides, right? Yeah. And then Bezos talks about that all data centers will go to space in 10 to 20 years. If he can't get enough launches from New Glenn, which has to become fully reusable, like partially reusable, only get them to Falcon 9 level, right? Which is like in 5 years they're talking about, which is a huge achievement. But then to go to Starship level, which is what needs to bring that cost down 10 times and the volume up 100 or 1,000 times, he will also buy rides from that. Yeah. So then Nvidia, Meta, Microsoft, everyone will buy that, and the amount of revenue from that for SpaceX and then also for Tesla is just unlimited. Because if you're adding the entire power of the planet into compute chips, just like that whole Elon talking about the limiter, the limit being off of civilization. It's just like economy changes. It's just nutty how crazy that goes.
Wow, Brian. So, okay, us Tesla long-term Tesla investors, we get very, very excited when we hear these businesses that Elon says we're going to do in the future. They're bigger and bigger and bigger. It's 10 times bigger than robots. We get all excited. AI, space-based AI data centers, but to bring it back to here now, does that in any way move the bull thesis? Some of us are excited when we hear these things, but most people are like, yeah, there's Elon talking about the future again. It's all talk. Nothing's really happening on a day to day.
He says a lot of things, and sometimes they're crazy, but still true. And the reality to me, I think, for the market is that the PE is still very high. Even though we're trading around 400, that still gives us a PE of like 260 or something. It's very high. The execution will catch up, but when? I don't know which of the new emerging revenue streams has been priced in, but some of them certainly, because as just a car company, just the automotive side, exclusive of Robotaxi and FSD, it's way overpriced. For just the energy side, it's way overpriced. So a lot of these moonshots are already factored in. I don't expect the market to be particularly exuberant about these things. It'll all catch up at some point, and you know me, I'm a long-term holder.
Yeah, I would say space. If any of that happens, won't be till next decade. I would stay grounded on the main things. The main things right now are FSD, Robotaxi, energy, and selling vehicles. Even I would say Optimus is maybe end of the decade type thing, but I would focus on the things that are tangible right now. All these other things like clustering all the compute from all the Tesla vehicles, like, guys, I get it. It sounds nice. It's not happening anytime soon. It's just not, especially not with your AI4 cars. Promise you, it's not. So if that's your thesis, please be long term,
Right.
and not long term holders that act like short term holders. But I would ground your real investment thesis not on space and data centers up there, but I would ground it on Robotaxi, FSD, electric vehicles, and battery packs.
So for you, Nick, what would make your Tesla bull thesis stronger in the next year, 2026? What would you need to see?
It's stronger. I just need to see continue to, like we haven't. It's like we haven't even started robotaxis, and people are trying to move beyond robotaxis. We haven't even started it. Like, how about we just start that? Let's actually get that going. Let's get FSD adoption actually happening, because that's going to be bigger than anything else. And then the learnings from that will allow Optimus to happen, but you need to start off with that. And so I think what would make my thesis stronger than ever would be, can we continue to do the things we need to do well? Can we scale well? Can we get to a point where this isn't what doesn't feel like a skunkworks project, where it doesn't feel like a startup, but it feels like when I order from Amazon and things just show up and it just works. When I need to deliver from something or return something from Amazon, it's the best experience in the world when you need to deliver something on Amazon. If I can get it to where I can pick up a Robotaxi anywhere and I have that type of ease of use, that's what I want to see. I want to see them get towards that and focus on the customer experience.
So I would say when it starts moving some needles would be around 2027, 2028. So we already have one chip up there by StarCloud, and then by October, they're planning to launch about 10, maybe to 100 in a second satellite. I expect SpaceX will launch about 100 chips in a satellite next year, may launch several. The advantage that SpaceX has for putting chips up there and getting utility out of them, that even if it's more expensive for them, they can use it to create content and AI distribution nodes up in space. Because they have 9,000 Starlink satellites, to get a kind of like Akamai layer on top that has compute and other stuff, they can generate returns and value from something that's more not competing with some kind of it would be competing with terrestrial ground stations would be competing with. So it would be, instead of like sending signal up and then sending stuff to the Starlinks and then sending it back down to some other location downlink and then doing compute there and then distributing the network, by having the network having more space only compute, they have a path where they can monetize that. It doesn't monetize to the Tesla side of things, but it monetizes for SpaceX and maybe for XAI, where they could get faster response, more localized compute for Grok. They could then do some stuff there. So there is some pathway to significant monetization in the 2 to 4 year time frame ahead of large AI data centers for inference. The Google paper shows that the chips and the memory will work for inference, not necessarily for training yet first. So even with what they currently are analyzing, they can say, I can just put a little thin layer over this satellite and then I can get it working for inference. So the working for these other use case is possible. And for chips that are already working up there, the Starlink and the V3 satellites will already have something that's about 2% of an H100, which is an AMD Versal chip. So they have more compute than many people realize up there, and they have utility for it for improving the efficiency of the Starlink network. And the Starlink network will get to from about $18 billion, $20 billion run right now to about $50 billion next year, $100 billion the year after that. So the growth of that and having significant revenue of like improving that aspect of it is significant and important. So it will start helping XAI and Tesla. Also being able to send down telemetry and other things to Tesla vehicles would be could also be an improvement that would happen. I think SpaceX and XAI first though would get the benefits.
Yeah. So it's possible, but it'd still be, you said, 2 to 4 years for that idea. So even Elon himself, I wanted to ask you this question, guys, because I've been asking others this, said here's what he expects when there will be a magnitude change in the stock price. Gally asked, when does Tesla stock have its Nvidia moment? Elon's answer was major valuation change when there's unsupervised self-driving at scale. And then even larger when Optimus reaches volume production. So what does unsupervised self-driving at scale mean to you guys? And when do you think we will get there?
To me, it means, in this context, to me, it means my car. To me, it means I can sleep in my car and wake up in another town. Oh, yeah. And at that moment, people would realize this isn't a car anymore. What you bought was something else. That's the point at which secondhand Teslas could start seeing their prices going back up instead of down. That would be, to me, a huge, huge moment.
So when and what does scale mean?
When? In the future. Yeah, that's when. I don't have an answer to that. I've never had an answer to that. I don't know. I mean, it's impossible. It's never been done before. So as soon as it's no longer impossible.
Somebody needs to do research the legalities of what unsupervised self-driving is.
So I would say it's multi-stage, that getting to that 1,500 vehicles, no supervised person. If they're fully utilized vehicles, then you're at Waymo levels of monetization at, say, $50,000 per car. At, let's say 2,000 vehicles, at $50,000 per car, then that's $100 million right? So then if you go to 20,000 vehicles, then you're at $1 billion. So the revenue becomes, real significant at that, 20,000, 100,000 vehicle level. And if you're doing that over the course of, first half or all of next year, that ramp rate would then be showing you an AWS, Amazon Web Services like shift, where you go from selling books and e-commerce to having a new 78% margin activity, and then that becomes the dominant story. So it is a kind of ChatGPT moment that when you have the 1,500, 2,000 or 20,000 vehicles that are all unsupervised, that the path growth becomes a spreadsheet tracking thing versus and we know that once you get to 1 million vehicles, that would be $50 billion, mostly profit. That would be 5x our current level. It would justify, even with the more conservative multiple, 40 times $50 billion, it would totally justify the $2 trillion level, and then you have more because you projected growth on that. So I think that the valuation change could be more like an Amazon's conversion to AWS. Like they did a couple of year, I think 3-year move where they said, okay, AWS is real, and now at the end of it, AWS is the dominant thing, and then AWS drives everything forward. So there's a transition phase, and this, how much anticipation do the investors have of saying, yes, this is happening? When do I have the confidence that the Cathie Wood ARK Invest thing is the real deal, where it's no longer only the Tesla bulls who believe it, but where they say, I believe it and I can track it and I can predict it, so that this, when did it go to the $50 billion with 1 million vehicles? When did it go to 10 million vehicles for 500 billion? Kind of like that.
Okay, so you said 20,000 is at scale for you because it has enough margin to say it's 5% of of money, so that's significant. But it sounds like when you hear unsupervised self-driving, you're lumping in both robotaxi and regular cars being able to do unsupervised self-driving, right?
Yeah. There'd be like a multi-stage rocket where it's like I'm doing a bunch in the network, and then that's going to scale. And then when I open it up to everyone, that's another stage of the rocket. So it's like a multi-step move. It won't be like once one event happens that everyone says all the other steps will happen. So it'll become like this step is now from 10% to 100% or 80%. This next step, the growth, when did that become 100%? And then when does we open up to 4 million cars in the United States that we all own or something like that? When does that part of it comes in? And that's another stage of growth in revenue and the growth in the story of driving as a service, ride hailing automated becomes real. So I think it's
we need to find out the legalities, because I'm not concerned about regulation holding up robotaxi, but I'm concerned about this concept of unsupervised self-driving for me, you, and everyone else. We're driving our cars. Tesla says you can sleep. Is that even legal?
I slept last night. I wasn't in a car. I will say real quick, though, that I am about to duck out here. Every time we do one of these live streams, I do an after show where I address all the comments and questions that come in. So I'm going to take a quick break. And it looks like next Wednesday's show will be moved to next Tuesday. I'll let Herbert explain more about that. But there's this holiday coming up, so we need to juggle things around a little bit. Guys, I will see you in the after show. If I see you, if you're watching this live on YouTube on my channel or Herbert's channel, it will redirect automatically. On the replay, not so much, and on other platforms, not so much. Brian Wang, a pleasure seeing you. Nick, a pleasure seeing you. And Herbert, I will see you soon.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Brian. What's your definition of unsupervised self-driving at scale, Nick?
Well, if I'm being honest, I think this response is a little bit of a cop-out. But what else do you expect from a CEO of the company, right? I think Tesla's already pricing in some of the Nvidia type re-rating. It's hard to think it's not at some, at least a little bit. But to me, unsupervised self-driving would mean at any moment I can call a robotaxi. At any moment I can get to my car and I can just text. I don't think we'll be able to sleep in our cars necessarily, at least not with us in the driver's seat. It just seems like there's too much of a risk there. Like what happens if you're sleeping and you move a little bit and you hit the brake or you hit the accelerator pedal or you just move the steer, right? Like there could be issues with that. There's still mechanical brakes in our vehicles. So I don't consider that. I think it's just more so about robotaxis. And I don't think it has to be at scale. Like this is where I disagree with Elon. I don't think it has to be at scale to start seeing it. I think Tesla can be much like Palantir in many ways, where you don't really see a lot of competition for Palantir. I don't think you see a lot of real competition for Tesla. Like sure, Waymo's out there, but what happens when Tesla's in more cities and has more vehicles out there than Waymo? Well, then at that point, the perception will be the same for Tesla as it is for Palantir. And at that point, you can arguably, or I would imagine that the stock will run ahead of where it currently is. And if you're into PEs, which I think is a horrible metric for growth companies. In fact, it's not a metric for growth companies. Let's just be honest with ourselves. It makes no sense to value a company on earnings today for future growth that we're anticipating. It's never made sense. It never will make sense. So I believe that we will see this all shift left, as we've seen so many times, whether it's with Nvidia, whether it's with any of the hyperscalers, whether it's Palantir. I think the market tends to shift left with the very obvious bets. And to get to that point where we actually start to see that, I think Tesla just needs to get out of this MVP type stage they're in. Right now, they haven't really launched robotaxis. Let's just be honest with ourselves. They haven't really launched it. They released a MVP, minimal viable product. All right. That's what they've released. Now, as they start going to more cities, as they start adding more vehicles, we will see this transition from what was like a MVP, we're kind of testing to see how this works in the market, to we're no longer trying to figure this out. We're trying to scale systematically. And I think as we get into that transition, I think the markets can be able to see that way before it actually starts to happen. And we might be there now. It's hard to tell, but we might be there now. And it might be over the next 3 months that we really start to see the scale, especially if Nevada starts to scale, if they start to add more vehicles in Austin, San Fran. I don't even think it necessarily needs to add or needs to grow in huge areas. They just need to be able to add volume to these cities. So I disagree with Elon on this. I don't think we need to see full scale, or at least what I would envision what full scale means. Because again, that would mean I don't care where I live. I can go outside. I could call a robotaxi, same way I could call an Uber. I can do it anywhere. So that's kind of my mental framework at the moment.
I love that. That's fantastic. Yeah, some people were telling me yesterday that Tesla would not have, allowed any iPhone user to call a taxi, which means that therefore they need to now increase the cars now to hundreds or thousands, unless they already feel like the infrastructure is in place. They figured out where the cars hang, where they got the data to show that it's safe enough to be able to do this. And then that once they do this, they've expanded. They're ready to keep expanding and then ready to remove the safety driver. That was their thinking, that they wouldn't have done this if they hadn't got, feeling like they've got things locked down now. So one signal, right? One sign. Do you guys think that Elon has been a lot more bullish on Tesla in just the last week? Certainly after the shareholder meeting, just the things he's been posting, the things he's been saying.
Yes, I think he has been more bullish, and he's, in terms of, to your point about being committing to all iPhone users, committing to the Cybercab April production. Those things are, monetary and other commitments that they're making, that this will happen over that time frame.
What other things do you think that makes you think that he's much more bullish now than ever? Are you on mute? Yeah.
I think the space AI thing and the chip stuff that he's doing, I think he sees that's a huge thing, and that
Yeah.
Even though it's may not really hit until 2030 or whatever, it's going to be a major factor that he has to work towards. Just like the working towards robotaxi took 10 years, working towards Tesla bot takes a number of years, working towards this is a number of years. But of course, for him, the fact that he'll monetize in SpaceX first and XAI, and then into Tesla, getting the fabs ready, he has to do the work now. He has to make the commitments.
So you believe him when he says, I'm going to build a terafab? Because I've spoken to a few people and they're saying he's just doing it to threaten the fab makers to, give me more than less.
It's
not
because
threat, right?
It's not threat. No, he's going to do it. The reason being is that he has to learn to, in order to get that other magnitude, like in the post where he first said, I'm going to do 100 gigawatts per year, first, and then the moon will let me do 100 terawatts, right? Moon doing 100 terawatts does not happen unless he had a fab on the moon. He has to have fabs on the moon in order to get the cost down to do other things. So basically, his joint fab with Samsung is to learn to do that. His own fab, our own fab with Tesla, Terafab, is the next step. And then terafabs on the moon and Mars and other places is in order to, the fact I can drag down all the costs and everything, but I'm still making the chips here. I don't get the 10 times cheaper thing to happen from the moon. The moon 10 times cheaper, I need to have the fabs on the moon. So this development of all space, because we're going to pay for AI data centers, is what gives us every sci-fi version, except with real-world economics, of developing everything in space, right? Since you go to, I'm going to dump tens of trillions of dollars into orbit, I'm going to then have justification to put trillions of dollars to develop industry on the moon, to do all this stuff. It's like, and then everyone else is paying me $10 trillion, $100 trillion to do launches to the moon. Is what's going to say all of the space plans that people were talking about are like small compared to what they're going to be doing. And that will happen within 10 years, at 2035, when they first dump 100 gigawatts or 200 gigawatts into orbit. Then that is like 25 to 50% of the power of the United States. That's like, wow, I got 50% growth in the United States. Like who put that into their spreadsheet to say the US will have 50% more power, by 2035? Like no one says that, right? So that, and then the leadership on that is just crazy. And in order to do those things, like how many launch towers, how many starships and the economics of that are just like crazy. And again, if it becomes, he says, cheaper to do that by 2030, the crossover point of the cheapness to do that becomes the economic forcing function, that you do not cross back over. Once space is cheaper, space never becomes less cheap. And space is cheaper, and the moon-enabled mining thing makes it even cheaper with fast. It's like I keep going out because it's the economic forcing function is just there. It's just like the money printing machine just goes like crazy, and then you just keep going.
It's so unbelievable. We're watching this all develop, right? The pillars of each of his business model coming into place. And yeah, some of this is way out in the future, but he needs to start planning it today in order for even this. So you think for sure, and you explained it really well, the terafab wasn't just a threat. This is real. He's gonna do it. He's gonna make that happen. Nick, do you think Elon's been a lot more bullish in the last couple of weeks after the shareholder meeting?
I don't. I think he's been saying the same things. I don't think he's said anything different. I think he's been the same bullish he's always been. I don't know. There's nothing new as far as his bullishness. There's new things he's talking about, like the terafab and, putting clusters up in space. But I think I think it's the same thing, the same thesis. It's he he may be hyperbolic. He may paint a grandiose vision. He may be late, but he's consistent. And he says the same thing over and over. So to me, I can't call it more bullish. I'd say we got the same Elon. We've had the same Elon. If you look at 2019, when he had the famous, it's checkmate, that mark my words, LiDAR. If you watch that could be played today and it would sound the exact same. Exact same.
That's true.
There's not a word would be different. So
yeah, that's absolutely very true. I lost my train of thought. That was very interesting. He's been saying the same thing, right? He's been very, very bullish. But isn't it great that he comes in and he sees a problem with Optimus, he dives in, and now he feels like he's, Optimus version 3, we got it, we fixed it, the hands, we fixed it. Now he saw an issue with AI 5, he dives in, and now he's being very bullish about it. Okay, I think we fixed that. I'm very proud of the AI 5 team. Now I'm going to build some big thing. What do you think is? That's what we pay for. What do you think is his next biggest roadblock that is stopping it? I don't believe that it's anything to do with robotaxi at this point. I think that robotaxi is going to be solved by Ashoka Swami. I don't know at this point if there's a requirement for Elon to come in and say, I got to solve this, except for maybe regulations. He might be the guy that's already making phone calls. But in that case, I do believe, I've been just sensing that he's a lot more bullish. Like he said, I believe on the shareholder meeting that as many robotaxi cybercabs we produce, we will have them on the roads. Now, could he just be saying it? Or maybe he knows something in the background that he has already negotiated a regulation that's about to come.
Yeah, he puts steering wheel and pedals in them.
Stop it.
Well, in terms of the regulations, that he indicating that all 3 of them could be done by the end of Q1. Okay, he said like China in March, Europe roughly that kind of time frame. So then, if they give full FSD approvals and some robotaxi approvals, then the U.S. would be carried along. If they weren't already, I think they want to be ahead of it. That they would say yes, you can fully go ahead with that at a national scale. So if he's working all 3 paths, Europe, United States, and China, once 1 or 2 paths happen, then the other's forced to follow.
Yeah, they're forced to follow. Right. And so I think that's the other roadblock that he needs to clear. And he might have either be working on it or I don't see that that's what I mean by he's bullish. I don't see that he's being very pessimistic about that. Feels like he can solve that problem.
Yeah, I don't think there's any big obstacles ahead. It's just honestly, now the hard part starts, I would say, where you have to execute well. You have to give a great customer experience. And in some ways, I would say Tesla sometimes isn't great about that, right? We've all heard the horror stories at service centers and, delays and just, sometimes you go in there and the people there don't even understand the company as well as we do. But they need they're definitely now going to be in the customer facing business, and they have to give world-class service. They have to. And the best service is ideally no service, meaning you don't have to interface with a human. The vehicle, it just works. It gets you from point A to point B. But we need to, and honestly, they need to advertise. They just do. Yep. They need to let the world know that this is happening.
I think that's starting to happen, right? You got the FSD safety. They're doing more and more of that. Yep. I think that once version 14.2 comes out, then gloves are off. I think they're going to go crazy with advertisement, and they better. They should, and they will.
And for Elon's sake, we better get texting by the end of this year because he's putting his reputation on the line again here.
But it's always like when he says that, it could just be 1 or 2 cars. It could be a small group of cars just to prove that it can happen.
That's fine. Just do it. Just deliver on it. Just work on getting rid of this reputation of being the person who's always late.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really horrible reputation to have.
Okay. Thank you both very much. Appreciate you, Nick, as always. And thank you, Brian, for joining us today. Stay on the line here and you'll be immediately transferred over, redirected to Brian White's channel. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.